So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Denise Gagne. I've been teaching since before a whole lot of you were born. I started my first year of teaching was 1978 in Macklin, Saskatchewan. And lots of those students that I taught are music teachers now across the country. In fact, if I was there, I would be on the third generation of students, pretty close to the fourth, because when I started teaching there, I taught grade 5 to 12. So I had grade 12 students who got married right out of high school, had kids young, and their kids, if they have had kids young, we're going to have lots of generations. And I have to say, it was those Macklin kids that really taught me a whole lot about teaching and how to teach. So I've got some ideas. I'm quite sure that many of you have better ideas and more ideas than I do. But the first thing I wanted to highlight is that the behavior issues that we are seeing today are way more difficult than in 1978. I mean, in 1978, there was still the strap in schools, and that's unheard of now. That's absolutely something we simply don't want to go there. And things were a lot different. In those days, if a kid got into trouble at home or at school, they went home and their parent found out that they'd been in trouble at school, they would get punished again because parents supported the school and supported the teachers. And we see a huge lack of that in our schools today. In some cases, it's maybe a parent that's had a difficult time in school themselves, and so they automatically side with their kids. And in some cases, it's simply helicopter parenting, where the parent is so convinced that their child is right. They've got blinders on. They're not willing to see the other side of the story. So it's harder. It's for sure harder, and the strategies that we have to deal with it, I think in many cases, if you've got a school-wide strategy, it works and it's really good. And I think we just have to learn better how to not just manage behaviors, but create a connection with our kids. And that's a really important part of all of this. So my first suggestion is learn the names. I always found with I taught 700-800 kids at a week. And that's a lot of names to learn. And so I would do name activities at the beginning of class until I had those names down. And my brain's not working as well in my old age as it did when I was younger, but it's still really, really important to get a handle on those names. So I'm going to take you to Musicplay Online, where you can find some name games, and there's lots of them. So if I go into units and I see back to school right here, this is the one with all the name games. And don't feel like you just have to do this the first or the second week of school. The kids like these games. You can do them all year. So these are name games that are in the song list, and all of them are good. I haven't showed Jolly Rhythm this year, so let's look at it. So I go to the song. It's kind of a reading song. So I can see that. I'm going to go back. I can see that it's a reading song because it's got solfa here. That means there's some part of this that the kids should be able to read. And I'm going to let you listen to the song. I'm not trusting my voice yet, but it is getting better.
Denise, we can barely hear it.
Okay, I think Morgan turned it down too much, and I'm not sure which number. I'm going to just try this one. And is this better? Is this better? Not yet?
No, it's not. No.
How about that one?
Barely.
I got a whole bunch of buttons here, and I'm not sure which one. I'm going to press more buttons here. Is that better?
Let's go.
Sounds louder to me.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit better.
Zero.
Better?
0, 0, 1.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
much better.
4, 5, 6, 6.
I think we're hearing it through the monitors. So in this one, you number off the students in your classroom. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you've got 32 kids, you number to 32. And then the first person sings 0, 0, 1, 1. And then whoever was number 1 sings 1, 1, 5, 5. And the one who's number 5 would sing 5, 5, 7, 7. So it's kind of a remember your number game, but it's quite fun. It's got a catchy little rhythm and it's a good song for the kids. So that's one. If I go back to my unit, I can look at any of the other ones. Number concentration. This one is, again, you number off the kids. But with this one, the kids sing their name when they have the number. And that really has helped me to learn kids' names. So again, I'm going to play it and let me know if you can hear.
Don't forget your number, don't forget your name. When you're ready, start the game.
So that's the song. It's a simple reading song. It's good for teaching TTs and TAs and for reading the so's and the me's. And if I go into the kids demo, you'll get to see me in a class with kids and they'll show you how to play the game.
Don't forget your number, don't forget your name. When you're ready, start the game. 18 blocks and 3 max 5, 8 and 6, Jack, 10, 13, Olivia, 14, Corey, 12, Christy, 11, 5, 8 and 4, 3.
And I'm being quite generous to the kids in not calling them out if they didn't do their name right on the beat. But they were still learning each other's names. They were still learning to keep a steady beat and to sing on that steady beat. So again, I was generous with them. If you get really fussy with them, you can call them out. And when I do call it out, then the one who went out gets to choose a different tempo. In fact, you could have the one that goes out choose an instrument and play along with an instrument. And I generally will only go for a little while. I like the new tempos because that's another way to practice tempo terms. And I'm going to talk a little bit about seating plans because I find if I make a seating plan and the kids have a designated place to sit in my classroom, it helps me manage behaviors better. I'm not sure if Stacy's on yet or not. She's planning to come. Stacy is my daughter, and she uses Idosio or Idokio, I don't know which way it's pronounced properly, to create her seating plans. And she takes a picture of each child and she puts it into Idosio. And then she's got that visual in front of her every class. And you can actually enter kids' marks if you're doing assessment right into Idosio. Her district doesn't, the district's grading system doesn't link to it, but it's really a handy app to have for just visual. I've got a visual right there of all my students and what their names are. And again, new teacher in the school, first time you're seeing them and you got 800 kids, you need some help. You need as much help as you can. When I made my seating plans, I would go 2 boys, 2 girls, 2 boys, 2 girls. And I apologize to anybody who thinks I'm being sexist by doing that. But if the kids wanted to sit boy, girl, that's fine. I would let them sit. I'd get them to choose a partner that they chose to sit beside. And generally speaking, that's how it worked out. And I'd try and organize it so that if I had 2 that I knew were going to have difficult behaviors, I had good behaviors on the other side of them. If I had 2 that were not really strong singers, I'd try and organize it so I'd have strong singers around them. Because lots of times if they hear the pitch, it helps them to match better. So I would do that. And then the other side to that was if there was problems, if I had 2 girls here who were chatting and wouldn't stop chatting, I would split them up and I would go boy, girl. And most often that would solve the problems right then and there. I found that particularly helpful 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. Was where that worked really well. So seating plans are good. If you have the option to do it, put your taller kids at the back. And that way, when you stand up, they can see. Another thing that I would teach my kids is if they're in lines and standing, I teach them how to look through the windows. I have a child here. I have a child here. The one behind should be here so that they look through the windows and they can see. It's something that dancers do, and it worked well in my classes as well. So the IDOCIO app for seating plan, just creating your own seating plan really helps. One of my friends taught in a classroom with flip form risers, and they're different colors. And that was a really good way for her to build her seating plan. She had her kids come into the classroom and sit on the risers. And then she could say, when she dismissed, the risers that were sitting quietly got to line up first. Yellow riser, you're doing really well today with being good listeners. Off you go. Red risers, awesome job. Off you go. So she would dismiss by color, and that worked really well for her. In my list of notes, school-wide behavior programs. There are lots of different ones that schools adhere to. Some do 7 habits of effective schools, and they go through all those 7 habits. And there's so many, I can't even think of them all. But if there is a school-wide program, and if everybody buys into it, your school is going to have fewer behavior issues. Schools that manage behaviors well generally have a cohesive plan. And even if it's not something that somebody's written a book about, if every teacher in the school follows the same process for dealing with behaviors, it really, really helps. If you're doing your own program and you want to create some kind of a reward program, number one rule for me is keep it really, really simple. If it's anything too complicated, you're going to give up after 3 weeks and you're not going to see the benefits of it. If it's simple, you'll stick with it until you see the benefits. And it should not cost you any money. Teachers should not be going to the dollar stores and buying erasers to give out as prizes for kids. I don't get a prize when I do a good job at work. I just feel good. And that's called intrinsic motivation rather than extrinsic motivation. And intrinsic motivation is far more powerful than any extrinsic rewards we're going to give. So my system, and again, this was mine. I've got a whiteboard behind me. I had a point system. So if the kids did something well, you came into class really quietly today, you get a point. And we start the first song, everybody started together. Yay, you get a point. Everybody's singing with their mouths open. You get a point. I give points for as many things as I can think of to give points for. If we have a bunch of chatty kids and they're not quiet when I give them a quiet signal, I take away a point and they lose one. In fact, there was a year where I did student versus teacher. I get a point because they're being bad, but I prefer the taking away points better. And sometimes you might start out with -1 and you'll teach kids about negative numbers. But if they get 5+ points in a class, it goes into, I guess you can't see that because that's orange. Let's see if black works better. Better? Can we see that? Yes, we can. So if you get 5+ points in a class, you earn a reward day. And on reward days, I would do things like I'd make a list of all the songs and games that the kids requested. So in grade 5, they might request up the ladder, down the ladder. They might request concentration game. They might request, maybe they have some YouTube videos that are their favorites. But what I really want them to be requesting is things that we've done in music class that they enjoyed. Number 1, it's a reward for them because they're in charge of the content for that lesson. Number 2, good thing of doing this, it's a review. It's a review of everything that we've done for the last 10 lessons. If it's 10 lessons to earn a reward day, I can review everything that they did in those last 10 lessons. Number 3, it's a real positive behavior motivator. And the kids like those reward days. It might be dancing to a favorite pop song, and they get to choose the pop songs as long as they're age appropriate for the class. So you can think of bazillion things that you can do as a reward day, but I absolutely would not go to a place where I'm going to a dollar store and I'm buying 200 erasers so I can give them out as rewards. That is not to say I have never given out stickers, because I have. Littles love stickers and littles love stamps. And again, you can go to the dollar store, you can buy an inexpensive, those ones that have nice smells are kind of interesting, and you give them a stamp as they leave the room. So it's not that I never ever do those kind of rewards, but I prefer that the kids develop that intrinsic motivation instead of extrinsic, whatever it is. So number 2 suggestion I have for you, teach the rules. Decide what the rules are for your classroom and keep them general enough, and post them in your classroom so that you can refer to them when you're giving points or taking points away. And I will share my rules. And again, these are mine. You might not like them, but I'm going back into this same back to school unit. So I went into units, and then I'm clicking on back to school. So here is my rules, and this is a PDF poster. You can download it from here and you can print it. So my rules are: make good choices, always be responsible, use good manners, be nice and be kind, speak when you're called on, always put your hand up, in the music room, always try your best, care for the instruments and all of the equipment. And I think that covers pretty well everything that we want from them. If I click out of that, I can go to the interactive. And this is the lesson that I like to do with it. So the voice part is on the top, and just push away from your computer and we'll quickly go through the body percussion. I developed this with students and with teachers a few years ago, and I quite like it. So we're going to start with a stomp, make good choices, and then we patch, always be responsible. We're going to clap, use good manners, be nice and be kind. We snap. So let's do that all again. Stretching is good for us. 1, 2, ready, go. Make good choices. Always be responsible. Use good manners. Be nice and be kind. So that's the first part of our poster. Click here. There's the second page. Speak is a stamp. When you're called on is a clap. Always put your hand up. I put my hand up. So I'm going to do that again. Speak when you're called on. Always put your hand up. In the music room, always try your best. So that's page 2. Let's do page 2 all together. 1, 2, here we go. Speak when you're called on. Always put your hand up. In the music room, always try your best. And then for the care for the instruments, that's when I get the kids to make up their own. Care for the instruments and all of the equipment. We read the rhythm, and then they create their own body percussion, because I want some creating in every lesson. They might do it on an instrument. Care for the instruments and all of the equipment. Or they might do it with different body percussion. Care for the instruments and all of the equipment, using some of Christian's body percussion. We could get the butterfly going in there. So that's my music rules, and teach it, post it. And then when, let's see if I stopped sharing. Good. Have I stopped sharing?
Yeah.
So post it, and then you can refer to it anytime that somebody's not doing something according to what your rules and procedures are. So my big number 3 is pacing. You notice I don't go slow in these webinars. I try and cover lots of ground, and I do the same in my teaching. If anything, sometimes I go too fast. But I notice when I'm watching, when I get to observe other teachers, that sometimes we talk too much and we don't do enough. And be really, really cautious with that. Be aware yourself of how much you're talking and explaining versus how much you're doing. So talk less, do more, pace fast, just have stuff in your back pocket that you can pull out if the kids are getting off task. I put in my number 3 in my blog post about having a rhythm activity to start the class. when your kids are coming into your room, depending on, once they know their seating place and they know where they're seating, if you have an activity that they come in and are expected to do as they're coming in, that will help focus and change their focus from classroom, hallway to music room. So again, I'm going to screen share and I'm going to go to 2 that I have seen that I like. Let's see. There we go. So I'm going to go first to the listening kits. If I've got a grade 3 class coming in, I'm going to put on Entry of the Gladiators. And as the kids are coming in, they're listening to this and they're thinking about the answers to the questions. Once they're all seated, we might talk about it and discuss it. And I might not let the example go all the way to the end. This one's a little long-ish. It goes, well, it's only 2 minutes, but I will let it go as long as I feel is appropriate for the children. You have to really monitor them. When they get too wiggly, it's time to move on. And then I would pause it and we'd talk about the questions. And then if they didn't know the answers or if they disagreed with the answers, we could play some more and they could hear them. So listening is, the listening logs are one activity. And in the listening kits, there are listening logs at every grade level. So grade 5, if I go to Allegro from Autumn, that same listening log is the first one that appears. So those are available for 170 listening selections. You can choose any that work for you. I'm going to go into rhythm practice. And rhythm practice is another good starting focus activity. So if I go into ties, we have just finished building out this whole level. We've added 10 levels in the on the new website. And so not everything is in all the levels yet, but it's coming. But I'm going to put on, I want the read, clap, and play. These are great because the kids can join in at any point. I'm going to go to activity number 3. And so you press play on this. As the kids come in, they sit down and they start clapping along. And there's enough levels in the rhythm. There's 25 levels. You can do a different video every class of the entire year, even if you have them 4 times a week. There's enough videos there. And once you've done a play along, then maybe you play Poison rhythm with them as a reward for doing their job well. And again, there's enough Poison rhythms on the site now. You don't have to repeat any videos. You can do a new one every week for the whole year. So that pacing, having a focus activity at the beginning of class is going to help you. Some teachers do a rhythm of the week that they write on the board and they teach to all their classes. And I thought that was a great idea. And you could turn that into a body percussion activity. So number 4, big idea. Have you contacted parents? Because even though parents, I think, are less supportive today than they were 30 years ago, many parents still want to know what's going on in their children's classroom. My last school, I had a really, really supportive parent group. It was a good area of the city, and we had people like the president of our parent council was a surgeon who would book time off surgery to come in for parent council meetings. Like, that's the kind of parents we had, super committed. If the kids all had daily agendas. And so if I wanted to communicate and be sure that it was going to get home, I would write a note in that child's agenda. So I'd write a note, dear parent, so-and-so was being silly in music class today. And that's all that I said. I didn't have time to write lots of it. The next day, back came a letter of apology from that silly little grade 2. And I know how long it takes a grade 2 to write a whole page of apology. It was incredible to me that the kids would do this, and that the parents were supportive enough of us that they would follow through with their children and apologize to the teacher for being goofy in class. Now, when you're contacting parents, we have in that back to school unit, that same back to school unit, some positive behavior notes. And I think it's really important that you try and send out as many positives as you do negatives. So I'm going to go out of my rhythm practice, and I'm going to go back into the back to school unit and show you where those notes are. And they're all ready for you to download. So it's in these resources. So here's a good behavior note. Bravo, today in music class, I was caught being amazing. And you know, you can pre-sign these and you can hand them out, and find 2 or 3 kids that are doing something really good and hand them out, and really, really work at getting notes out to everybody in every class by the end of the year. You might even want to keep track on your class list of who you've sent notes home with so you don't miss anybody out. On the other hand, we have an oops behavior note. Today was a tough day in music class, and here's some things of what they were not doing. And again, you might have supportive parents, you might not have supportive parents, but I still think parents should know what was going on. If I have a real problem, this isn't going to do it, I'm going to write in the agenda or do a behavior reflection. So behavior reflections are here, and I put the music room rules in. I want them to describe what happened, describe what you should do next time. We have teacher's signature and we have parent signature. And so I would make a copy of that, keep it in a binder with other behavior incident reports. And I mean, if you have this happen 2 or 3 or 4 times, what you may need to do with that student is put them on an individual behavior contract where they, where you write in detail what you're going to expect from them. But often, all you need to do is send this home once and the behaviors will improve. That's certainly what we hope. A time to pause. This you put over your timeout chair. So if you have a place in your classroom that's time to pause, reflect on your behavior. When you're ready to join us, come back in. I taught at a Montessori for a couple of years basically as a volunteer guest teacher. And they would give me 24 kids at a time, no aid. And these were little people. These were 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. And I honestly, I don't know what those Montessori teachers did to bewitch them, but the behaviors of those 24 kids were, generally speaking, unbelievably good. And I could manage 24 on my own because they were well trained. I had one little guy that obviously, I mean, I'm looking at him, I've taught for a long time. I know this little guy is ADHD. I know it. And I don't want to put those kids on Ritalin. I just want to give them the opportunity. So when he would get a little bit out of control, I would just say to him, would you like to go put your head down on the desk for a little while and then come back when you're ready? And I didn't say it in a mean voice or a loud voice. And he would realize that, yes, he was out of control. He went over to that little table and he'd put his head down. And usually in 5 minutes, he'd come back and he'd join in and he'd participate well. So that's, again, that's the magic of Montessori, I think. But those positive and negative behavior notes are good. And I think for every negative that you send home, you should try and send home 2 positives or 3 or 4, because you always want to praise the positive. I even find in class, and this works best with the littles, that if I catch somebody doing something right, if we're singing, and I know not everybody is singing, I find somebody who is singing, and wow, Sarah, you have your mouth open and I can hear you sing. Boom, with the littles, they all copy and they all do the same thing. And then you can follow up with, wow, this whole class is singing amazing. So be sincere with it. But with the littles, just finding something positive and praising the positive goes a lot further. I don't like criticism. I don't like being nagged. I always say a pat on the back goes a whole lot further than a kick in the pants. And that's something to keep in mind when you're dealing with kids. They don't like being nagged. I don't like being nagged. So I'd rather catch someone doing it well and praise them than I would nag the poor behaviors. So behavior reflections for serious incidents or repeated issues. My last school had an incident binder. And anytime there was a serious incident in any classroom in the school, you would go and you would write out an incident report. You would give a copy that the parents had to sign, and it would go in, a copy would go into the incident binder. And then principal, admin has documentation from the entire school of where the problems are. If Jason in grade 1 is having incident reports filed in music, in PE, in library, and on the playground, I'd say we have a problem with that child, and it's time for admin to call parents in for a meeting. And maybe that child needs to be on an individual behavior contract or have some additional supports. I wish we had more aides because there's so many kids who need assistance and don't have it. But you do what you can do. Calling home. Oh, isn't that the phone call that every parent dreads? This is Jason's teacher, and Jason was kicking another child in music class today. That is not a phone call any parent wants to get, and it's not a phone call I want to have to give as a teacher or as a teacher. I hate doing those, but they need to hear it, and they need to hear it in September or early October before first report cards, because there's nothing worse than a parent coming in to first report cards and finding out that their kid's been causing problems for the last 7 weeks and I didn't know anything about it. So it's important to do that contact with parents. At one point in my career, I taught grade 9 religion, and it was in a Catholic school, and that was the class that they loved to hate. It was right up there with French, because kids in grade 9 hated taking French too. But this religion class was not something the kids wanted to be at. And I was in a terrible room for it. I was in a library with open tables instead of a classroom with desks, which would have been a whole lot better. And I had so many kids in that first class that were not respectful and not listening and not cooperating. I went home that night and I took my telephone list and I spent that night calling every parent of every kid in that class. And it was amazing. Next class that I had with them, boom, much, much, much better. And basically I said to the parents, if your children really, really don't want to be in religion class, then you pull them. There is an alternate program that they can go to. And there was 2 or 3 parents whose kids hated it enough that they pulled them. And that's okay with me. I'm fine. You can't teach when the whole class is wildly out of control. But calling every single parent, that made a big, big difference. Okay, number 8 might sound a bit weird as a behavior strategy, but I think it's a good behavior strategy. And this is giving the kids a pretest, especially if you're new in that school, because you don't necessarily know what the kids know, and the kids don't know you. It doesn't matter whether they loved or they hated the teacher that came before you. Either way, you've got problems. If they loved the teacher before you, they're loyal to that teacher. And for some reason, loyalty to music teachers runs really, really deep. And if they're loyal to that teacher, they're just going to be, especially your grade 4s and 5s, they're going to be looking for ways that you're inferior. If they hated the teacher before, they've got a bad attitude about music. So either way, you're absolutely hooped. I'm not teaching full-time these days, but I guest teach. And one of the guest teaching gigs that I did was with a 3rd grade class that was somewhat difficult. And when I found the pretest, it worked really well. I used the rhythm practice section. And actually what I used was, I used Tontiti because I didn't know where these children were at. And at the end of this section, it's a rhythm reading assessment. And I used an easy 4-beat one. And I just went through the entire class one at a time. Every child was responsible for one rhythm. So student number 1 would go first.
Ready, go.
Ta, ti, ti, sh, ta. Next student, your turn.
Ready, go.
Ta, sh, ta, ta. Sarah, you're next. Ready, go. Ta, sh, ti, ti, ta. It was really surprising to me how the kids responded to this. All of a sudden, they're kind of like, "Oh, I'm up. I have to show that I know how to do this," and there's an expectation of me. I'm not just coming here to bash instruments and have a good time. I'm expected to know something. And I found doing that pretest, making my expectations known, helped to turn around the behavior of that class. It seemed like that same day, things were much, much better. Number 9, this is more for your older kids. Try different activities till you hit the one that appeals to them. And you will be, I'm always surprised. You never ever know which activity it's going to be. That's the one that they love. So if you have a class set of ukuleles, that for me was a really high interest activity for kids to do. I actually had class sets of guitars in 3 of my schools. I fundraised until I had enough money, and those kids were not scared to sing when they had guitar in hand. I'd start the year with that, and then I'd have them singing for the whole year. Ukuleles are less expensive. They're easier to get your hands on a class set. Save them for your older kids, and hopefully that's an engaging activity for them. If you don't have ukuleles, look at bucket drums. We've got wonderful bucket drum unit and module on Musicplay Online. And bucket drums are inexpensive. You can go to Lowe's or Home Depot, and for $4, you can buy a bucket. And lots of times, if you take a letter from your principal requesting a donation of 30 buckets to the manager of Home Depot or Lowe's, they will give you a class set of buckets. You don't have to have real drumsticks. You can drum even with little rhythm sticks, and it will work really quite nicely. But my kids loved bucket drumming. I've had really good success with those units. I would go on with my 5th, and especially if I had 6th graders, I would go on to teach some of the arrangements of songs that we've got on the website, and then I would turn them loose with a project to choose their own song and arrange it. I'm going to screen share quickly once more and show you where the songs are. So you can access bucket drums and instruments, and there's also a bucket drum module made up. So if I go to the module, I start at the bottom. Lesson 1, 2, 3, 4 basically show kids how to hold the sticks and do some basic patterns. And then we have arrangements of songs. So Grand Old Flag, We Will Rock You, Dynamite. This is Dance Monkey, super appealing. And after you've done 3 or 4 of those pop songs, then you get the kids to choose a pop song, verify with you, give you a copy of the lyrics so that you can vet it for cleanliness. And then you have them. You know, anytime you've got projects, if you can put a pair of 6th graders together to create a bucket drum arrangement, that project is going to keep those 6th graders busy for at least 3 weeks. Even if you have music 2 or 3 times a week, it's going to keep them busy, and then they can teach it to the rest of the class. So teaching the rest of your bucket drum arrangements is going to take up the next 3 weeks. There you go. 6 weeks of grade 6 taken care of. Body percussion. Christian's body percussion unit was really popular, and it's, again, in instruments on the left menu, and just look at body percussion, and the kids, they really enjoyed the lessons with him. Skip the first 6 because they're too easy, but go from number 7 on down the list. And that's kind of what you have to do with your 4th, 5th, and 6th graders that are giving you a little bit of grief. You need to find the activities that appeal to them. Some of them will be happy to follow the song sequence and learn lots of songs, but my experience with 4th, 5th, and 6th graders is the more you can do with instruments, the more the happier they're going to be. And we've got all those beautiful units on Musicplay Online that you can use. In the recorder section, and again, I should share this so I can show you. We have, so in instruments, your upper elementary, I would absolutely try Christian's body percussion. So I would skip the first 6, but I would start here and I would go through. I would do the extra tutorials because they're hard. And then I would go into his level 2. And this is all really challenging. And again, these 2 are body percussion to pop pieces. You could give that as an assignment, create a body percussion to go with your bucket drums. The bucket drumming is here as well as in modules. Your ukulele is here. Recorder, we've added 2 new sections to the recorder, and these are super fun. One is the Jazz Cats, and they only need BAG to start playing these. Let's see, let's show Bossa Cat. They're fun pieces to play. And each one has improvisation in it. So if they're only BAG players, when they come to the improvising, they can improvise with BAG. So that's, let's see, go back to my search. That's the Jazz Cats recorder. We also have Blues Cats recorder, which I think is just as much fun. And each of these is in a different blues style. So here's the rock and blues. It uses G, A, B, C, so you'll have to make sure you've pre-taught those notes. And these rhythms are not to be taught by reading. I would teach them by rote rather than teaching them through reading. But those kinds of recorder pieces, if you have grade 5 classes that love to play the recorder, there you go. There's some really age-appropriate repertoire for them. So keep trying till you hit on what works for them. I got an email one year from a teacher that was at a boys' school. And I can't remember if it was Ontario or BC, but it was a boys' school. And her kids' favorite activity to do in music class was listening logs. And I'm going, seriously? But they really liked doing listening logs. So you just keep trying different stuff until you hit on what works for them. What do you do with the class that won't do any of it? You've tried everything and they simply won't do it. That is when you go to the written music program and you start giving them written assignments, and you just have to. If you've got a class that's out of control in the music room, the first thing that I would do is take them back to their classroom and give them a written assignment. If nothing else, if you don't have any materials ready, photocopied, I would give them a piece of paper. I would have them practice drawing the staff with rulers. I would have them practice drawing treble clefs with rulers. Then I'd have them draw another staff and create as many music notes as they can. And then the next class, I would have something photocopied and ready for them. And I would take them to their classroom and just say, this is where your music classes are going to be until you show me you're ready and responsible to come back to music. And unfortunately, I think in this day and age, sometimes we have to do that with our, again, it can be your 4th grade, it can be your 5th grade, sometimes it's even 1st grade. There's just some really serious behaviors out there. So I would resort to written music program until you deem they are ready to try active music making. Yes, and there's lots of musical reasons for practicing note names, for practicing note values and other theoretical topics, or history of music. Learn about Beethoven and answer questions about Beethoven. So I think that's something that sometimes needs to be implemented kind of as a circuit breaker, turn them around, and then we bring them back and try it again. What sometimes happens is you've got 20 classes that you teach. 19 of those classes are really good. So at that point, you know, it's not you. There's something in that 20th class. It was the water when their mothers were pregnant. Who knows? But there's always at least one class in every school that's going to be a little more off the wall than the others. So reflect on what you're doing with the 19 classes and try and stay focused on what you're doing with those 19 classes that's working really, really well. And don't let that 20th class keep you up at night and stress you out? It's really, really hard to do that. I know, because we always tend to focus on the one negative and not on the 25 positives. But if you can, remember that you are doing a really, really good job with most of your kids, and there might be some kids in there that you can't reach. I'm open to seeing in the chat if anybody has any really good suggestions that I haven't covered here. I know there's tons that we could talk about with behaviors, but I'm really, really open to having people unmute and let us know what has worked for you in your classroom. So let's look at the chat and see what. Okay, so Sue, can you tell us, Sue Varkness, you put in the chat, use student leaders, and I think that's a great suggestion. Can we unmute Sue? Can you find her carried in? Is that going to be hard?
I think I'm unmuted.
Okay, great. So Sue, share with us what you're doing.
You know what? I think I actually heard Artie Almeida say one time that when you use a student leader, the focus of everyone in the classroom goes up like about 60%. And after I heard her say that, I thought, okay, I'm going to throw student leaders up there all the time. And it has really, really helped, you know, as far as leading actions to a song or doing a call and response. I just, you know, they love it. And Artie was right. The students want to be student leaders, and it has just helped all of them focus.
That is great. I'm trying to look through the chat and see if we have had any other good suggestions for us. Is there a slide deck for this webinar? I'm sorry, I didn't make one. I put it in I should make a slide deck for it because it's good suggestions. I put it on my, I put it in the newsletter, and I'm going to put it on my blog. So I will write these down, and I will add all these wonderful suggestions. Okay, Beth Shear, are you still on? Because you've got a good, easy management game that I would love to hear more about. Can we find Beth Shear if she's still here? My easiest management game, beat the teacher. I draw a small T-chart on the board that says class and teacher. Okay, Beth, you get to explain instead of me.
Sorry, my voice is gone. Yeah, this is the easiest game ever. You just draw a little tiny chart on the board. If I could move my computer, I'd show you. But and one side says class, the other side says teacher. All I do is this. I go 5. And if I get down to 0 before, yeah, like that, exactly. And if I get down to 0 before, and they're still chatty, I'm like, and I just go draw a teacher point. And they know this, and there's like, she's counting. And but if they get quiet first before I get down to 0, then it's class point. And if at the end of music class, if the class beats the teacher, then I have this clip chart. It says MUSIC, and then at the top it's a disco ball, and they have a little clip. Each class has a clip, and their clip up 1 letter, and the next time 1 letter. Basically, we have 6 weeks in a grading period, and if they move up 6 times, because it's the 5 letters of music plus the disco ball, then their next class period they get a dance party, and it's literally the last 5 minutes of class. Usually we just put on a fun pop song, and I have this disco ball that makes the crazy lights in the room and turn the lights off. They think it's the best thing ever. Even the big kids are like, we get a dance party next week. They're so excited, and it's 5 minutes.
So your reward is only 5 minutes of the class, where I did a whole class of reward, but I had my kids 2 or 3 times a week, which makes a big difference.
I only have them once.
Yeah, I had a lot more time with them. Thank you so much, Beth. I'm going to just swing through the chat and see, let's see what else I noticed. Okay, I'm hoping we have more suggestions. Okay, so Becky also has a point system, and it looks similar, and you have several class jobs. Becky, would you unmute and tell us about the class jobs that you do? Can we unmute Becky?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So I'm live in New Hampshire, and we have a point system for second grade up through fifth grade. And excuse me, when they earn 100 points, then we have a movie day. And the movie is a musical or a movie about music that I choose. But every day I give them, and I tell them it's because it's my gift to them because I love them so much, 8 points. So they get 8 points for walking through the door. They lose points for, negative distracting things. They earn points like you for anything possible. I can give them a point for, because it gets buy-in immediately. But in addition, I have a pixel poster, and you can find these on Amazon, and it's basically a huge poster with about 4,000 squares on it that are color coded and by letter. And if the kids earn 5 points in a class, not the points that I give them, in addition to that, then they each get a sticker at the end of class to put onto the poster. And we've been doing, this is our fifth week of classes, and we're not even anywhere close to filling it out. But the kids every week, I think I know what it is. And of course, they have no clue, but that's okay. They buy into it. They're always saying, are we going to get a sticker today? And super awesome classes get 2 stickers, that kind of thing. If it's a kid's birthday, they get to choose the color of the sticker, that kind of thing. It's just really made they would have gotten the points anyway, but it just has really made it a nice addition, and the kids get really excited for that immediate reward as well.
You know what I would really love, Becky, is if you would take a picture of that and send it to me. Denise
sure.
at musicplay.ca, because then I can share it on Musicplay Teachers if you're not on Facebook, and share, because I think that's a great idea. I am seeing that Stacy Werner is on, and I had asked Stacy if she would share a little bit of her knowledge of Idosio, and she's got a good comment here as well. Can we unmute Stacy? Be proactive with challenging behaviors. Have fidgets available, headphones, seating placement. So, hi, Stacy.
Hi.
and I'll share too. Stacy is my daughter, and she's a music teacher near Calgary. So, Stacy, I'd love to hear your suggestions for us.
Yeah, no, I teach in a public school. I have very challenging behaviors in my classrooms. And the biggest thing, well, first of all, the relationship with those kids. So the longer you've taught them, usually you know what their triggers are and things that can be disruptive for the rest of the classroom. And so I keep a bin of fidgets available just in case. I also keep a bin of headphones. Today, for example, there was a little girl that I could tell right away the sound of the sticks were bugging her. And I went quickly and just grabbed that. None of the other kids even really noticed. Done, she's good. And then think about where you're placing those kids. Sometimes we think that the kids with ADHD need to be right front and center. I actually find sometimes it's helpful to have them at the back so that they have more room to move. And right now I have sit spots in my classroom, and I put some of those more, the kids sometimes that just need more space to move, I put them at the back, and I'll see them kind of rocking in the middle of class and things. But as long as they're focused and they're not disrupting other kids, it's okay with me. And then another one of my rules too is sometimes with participation, it takes a while, and I'm okay if you are watching and you're not being disruptive, but I'm not okay if you're being disruptive with the class.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about Idosio? Because I tried to describe what it does, but you know it so much better than me.
So it's an app. It's spelled, here, I'll type it in the chat here. And you can put in all your class names. There is some school systems where I think you can just pull it from an Excel document. For me, I have to manually type out all my students' names. And sorry, my own children are being noisy right now. And from there, you can make seating charts. I used to take pictures of every kid, but I don't anymore. I know I've taught at the same school now for long enough that I don't take the pictures anymore, but it's super helpful even for kinders and grade 1s. that are new to the school. And that first day, you can sit them somewhere right away and you know their name right away on the first day. Because with kinders, if you don't know their names those first couple of days, you're in trouble. So super helpful.
Nice, nice. Well, you know what? We're at 5:28, and I guess we're not going to have time for question and answer today. But if there's any questions that you have that I haven't answered or we haven't answered, please send an email to denise@musicplay.ca. I'm very happy to answer any questions. As always, if you have any support questions, anything to do with the website, support@musicplay.ca, send support an email. If support gets an email that's sort of curriculum related, they'll send it on to me anyways. So I will get it. And also keep submitting bug reports, because if you see something on the site that's not working, the little bug that's off to the right, it takes 10 seconds to fill out a bug report. I'd even do it in the middle of class if I had kids, because that will certainly help me. And I have this all typed up. So if you would like a printed copy and you're not, if you don't get the newsletters, I can actually, we have everybody's email, right, Carrie Lynn?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. We can send everybody a printed copy of our suggestions for the webinar. And I think we figured out how to keep the Zoom bombers off of our webinars. So we'll continue doing these on Wednesdays, variety of topics. We'll be bringing in some guest speakers as well to this. I really appreciated actually the teachers that jumped into the chat and then joined us and shared their suggestions. And that's the beauty of Zoom, is that we can have more people talking than just Denise. And I'm sorry, it was a little bit of a blah, 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 but I hope that you're going away with some ideas for behaviors. And thank you, Jeff. My voice is feeling a lot better. I have to tell everybody that's on here, last week, I did the Wednesday webinar and I was croakier than I'd been before. On Thursday, I had an appointment with my voice doctor and he said, "How is your voice doing since we've done the procedure?" And I said, "Well, it's not so good. I've got a little bit of a cold and I'm croaky." He said, "You're double vaccinated, right?" And I said, "Yes, I had to be to go get the procedure done." And he said, "You should go to get tested for COVID." He said, "I've had a lot of patients that are double vaccinated. They get something that's so mild, they don't think it's anything, and then it's COVID." So I made an appointment. I went, and guess what? It was COVID. So I had to go into isolation for a week. I can work from home. I didn't feel bad. I had naps 3 days in a row, which I don't normally do, but that was about it. The voice was croaky for that week, and I do think it's getting better and on the mend now. So for those of you that haven't been vaccinated yet, do, because if you get a breakthrough infection like me, it's going to be a really, really mild case, and it won't knock you off your feet. And now I figure I've got really, really good immunity. So I feel like I'm safe to travel and don't have to worry about getting COVID again. So I think we have quite a few teachers that have gotten COVID in this fourth wave. And I'm 100%. I feel perfect. So all good. Thank you everybody for joining us. And I hope you have a really good rest of your week. And I hope we see you again next Wednesday.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. And this recording will be on Musicplay Online, including the professional development certificate as well. So just head over there. And because this chat is gold, a whole bunch of great ideas, I am going to also post this chat on Musicplay Online. So see you over there. Alrighty.
It
Bye,
goes
everybody.
into Musicplay Online in the dashboard in the webinars, just so you know where it is. Musicplay Online, dashboard, and webinars. And if any of you aren't on Facebook, you can always find copies of the webinars on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is Musicplay. Just search Musicplay and you'll find us. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.